Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Stampers Club. I'm Karen Tralfa, and today I have a turtly awesome birthday card to share with you. You're going to love it. Let me show you what we're going to be playing with. So we're going to be playing with the Turtly Awesome bundle. Love this, and you're going to love the way some of these die cuts work. Definitely a little more interactive than you've seen before, but we have a great little card that is going to help expand your techniques with some Stampin' Blends. So I'm going to show you how to color these little guys in, but you're going to love how the interactiveness of this little die set is. So let's get started, and I'll show you what we're going to be doing. So I started out with a half a sheet of shaded spruce cardstock that I've scored at 4 1/4. Scoring it first helps give you a nice crisp edge. It's not 100% necessary, but it does help create that really nice crisp edge. Okay, then I've matted up with some Darling Duckling, which is one of this year's in colors. So we're going to get some Darling Duckling cardstock on here. Perfect. Okay. And then some of the Turtly Awesome Designer Series paper. Now, some of the images on this designer paper can also be die cut out, or of course you can always fussy cut too. But I chose to use just our turtle skin over here. Our shell. It looks like a little turtle shell, doesn't it? Let's get that on there in the center or somewhere near the center. Okay. Ooh, and then I'm going to have some ribbon that I want to add to this. Should have added this first, but it'll still work. So I'm going to add some tape to my ribbon, and I want to come in under the edge here just a little bit. Tuck that in under the edge, and then go across my card. There we go. And then I'm gonna leave it a little bit longer than the card, but still give it a little bit of an angle cut. Let me tape that down a little bit more. Okay, perfect. All right, so you have this really pretty shaded spruce. So this is a two-tone. So you have seafoam on the soft seafoam on one side and shaded spruce on the other. Love this ribbon. Definitely pretty unique, right? Then I'm going to add another layer of just basic white and shaded spruce. This is for my background of my images. So this card is definitely not your quick and easy. Has some technique in it. I'm going to mount that on to with some dimensionals. Okay. I love the dimensionals. It gives your cards a lot more character by giving you some added staggered imaging going on here. So you have some of that popped up stuff so that you get a little more character to your card. Okay, so now for the stamping. So since I'm going to be using blends, I'm going to use Memento ink. That's very important because you're going to be using a alcohol marker. So you want to make sure that you're not using an alcohol-based ink. Otherwise, it would bleed together. You would have, muddy color, right? So I'm going to get my two little turtles here. Okay. And then we're going to use some Stampin' Blends. I'm going to start with the Granny Apple Green. And I'm going to start with my dark and just add some color in some random areas here, like not a whole ton everywhere. So just going to add some dark here. Right, and get a little bit on his edge here. I tend to start with my dark in a very small areas. I don't want this to be like a lot of color. I can always come back and add more. And then go to my light and blend this out. That one's not very well. Ooh, never had that happen before. I think my ink is cracked. And then we're just going to blend this together and get some color on here. I'm going to get them all colored in. And the light tends to bleed into, the dark bleeds into the light, so you get that natural shading. That's the nice part about the blends, is it you get a high and a low color. So you get like a two-tone, almost like a water, almost looks like it's watercolored at that point, right? This going here. And if you want to, you can put as much ink on here as you want, right? Gets it. You can come back and add more dark if you want darker areas. That works too. And, you can play with it. That's the nice part. You can use a color lifter to take some of the color away. If you're not really happy with the color in one spot, or even if you go outside of the lines, the color lifter will help push that color back into your image. That works too. Get this just filled in here. I know that's the only part about blends, is the videos are a little longer, but it gives me a little more time to spend with you. Do you guys use alcohol markers? I would love to hear your comments. Share with me what blends you use. What's your favorite color? Even if they're not Stampin' Up! Ones, I'd love to know what everybody else is using. All right, let me go to the other. I'm going to keep with the same color, just so that I can keep things moving here in the same fashion. Let's get some. Oh, let's get it out on the top here. Get this little color here. Let's give him a circle in his knee here. How's that, right? Yeah, I'd like to know how you guys, how do you play with your colors? Do you like to paint? Do you like to do blends? Do you like to do markers? What's your favorite coloring technique when you're dealing with line art images? I really enjoy using two-step stamping. I like to color, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely something that I want to be patient with. It's a little bit of relaxing to color. Remember being a little kid coloring in coloring books? It's always fun, right? Get these guys blended. So you get like a high and a low. So I'm not sure if the camera's picking this up or not, but I'll try to get it shown a little bit in when I get it done. I'll lift it up a little closer to the camera so that you can see how the blends actually blend the two colors together, so that you end up with some dark areas, some shaded dark areas, and then some lighter areas. You get stuff that makes it look like it's naturally watercolored. That's the nice thing about alcohol markers, is they're so easy to use, and Stampin' Up's done a great job with the high and the low of the colors, that you end up with some really artistic coloring without a whole lot of work, right? And I'm going to go to Shaded Spruce, and I'm just going to bring in a little bit of color here along the edge on the Shaded Spruce, because I don't want it 100% on the dark or on the light. And I'm going to use the bullet tip. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have two tips on here. But with these little small lines on these images here, it's definitely something where I would need to use the bullet tip here to be able to color in these smaller areas. I think my marker's a little bit not so pointed anymore. That happens, right? They still work beautifully though, right? I'm going to add a little bit of dark on this just so that I have some shading going on here. Just a little. A little goes a long way on some of the colors. The dark is very very dark in some areas, so you don't want to use too much because it's going to spread and bleed into the other colors just like it's supposed to do. Yep. Here we go. And I'm going to go with Daffodil Delight and get my shell colored in here. I follow the natural lining on the line art when I'm doing this, and I'm going to do his toes in solid darker. This is the dark Daffodil Delight. And then bring back in some light and do a little blending. Get some highs and lows in there. And, you know, it feels like I'm not having enough dark in here. So if you feel that way, just bring your marker back in and add a little bit more. I think this one needs a little thicker. And then it'll bleed out. It will blend. I should say the word blend, right? Since we're blending, and that's really what it is. Get this curled in here. And I want to soften that line where the two colors meet. Let's get these little guys colored in here. Perfect. And then I'm going to come on to the other guy and do the same thing. I want to get his stripes going there. I'm going to switch this to the bullet tip so that I can do these little tiny little guys here. Don't really need to blend on these little toes because they're a little too small to do that with anyway. All right, well, let's get some color added to these little circles. And you see I'm just putting a little bits of color in there. And then we'll bleed these in. Soften that line. By going in some circles, you'll also soften the hard line that is created when you do the dark like I did. It spreads it out a little bit further. Get my colors up here. And last but not least, we have one. Oh no, we have a couple more. And some little guys there. So let's get, I have a Flirty Flamingo Dark. Let's give these guys some fun little cheeks here. I'm just going to put little dots and we're going to get some fun little rosy cheeks on these guys. Isn't that cute? So see how the blends just kind of make these lines where you have some highs and lows. The green's the same way. You have some highs and lows. So it looks naturally painted. I did it a little fast, so yours will come out much better than mine. All right, let's grit our little Mac over here. And I'm going to use 2 of the dies. Let's see, I need this one and this one. So we're going to use these 2 dies here. Not that one. This one. We have 3 turtles in this set. All right, I'm going to use a little bit of washi tape to tape these down, align them where they go. Right, so you're going to just kind of line that up where you like it. And I'm just going to give it a little tape there so it holds it in place. And we'll do the same to the next one. Put it lined up. And that looks good. Give it a little tape to hold it down. Now, when you're using the mini machine, it really helps if you offset the lineup. The machine's so narrow that it's very tight when you roll through. So by offsetting that, it will make it so that your plates go through the machine with super ease, right? Get that out of the way. Right. Our dies off of here. Washi tape's great because, you know, the paper doesn't tear. your image doesn't tear, right? So that's the nice part about washi tape. All right, and that one. So see how this is like cut open? So the die, as I said, this is a little bit of an interactive die. This one doesn't do that, but there's two dies that do this where their arm is a little bit free, right? Which is perfect, right? So on this guy, now I've already pre-cut this, but I have some parts and pieces that make a guitar, right? This also works as a balloon, right? So this die works as twofold, right? You get two things for one. I'm going to use liquid glue on this too because that's going to be easier to use on this small stuff. So I want to have, I'm going to do a little banjo here. So I'm going to, whoops, get the center of it. So we have our white acoustic part. Then I'm going to add some liquid glue to this stem here. Maybe. Boy, my glue is like, I think it's almost empty. Right? We're going to add that right over the top of that. So it gives it something to glue onto, right? And then the other end of our little banjo handle here. Let me grab my pick tool to pick this little piece up, because this is kind of small. We're going to line that up right on the side here. So they've thought of everything to make these look as realistic as possible, right? So that the handle goes right through like that. Awesome, right? So let's add, get a little bit of glue on this, maybe, okay? And we're going to give him a banjo that he is playing, right? Isn't that fun how you can actually create where it looks like he's actually holding it and you actually have this little interactive. Now you could put a little dimensional there. Let's try that and see how that looks actually. I did not do that when I created the card, but I think it would be great if we accentuate the fact that his arm can be raised a little bit. So let's pop a little dimensional under there and it'll keep it off. So you really get that 3D effect with this little die, right? All right, so let me get some dimensionals because I want to put dimensionals on the back here. Let's get these two guys attached to our card. All right, so I've got this guy playing, and this guy's going to do a little fancy roll. He's going to do a little spin, right? All right, let's do just like that. Now, we could do a couple more things, really dress this up. We're going to have our little guy that's doing this fancy spin. We're going to have him singing. We're really going to sing happy birthday to you. So this can get die cut out. I'm going to get another dimensional here. Let's see. Can I use a small one? Will it work? Oh, I'm going to need to use a partial one because that is just too big. Lost my scissors. Who else has your scissors just go like, somewhere else on your table besides, where you think they should be? Mine is definitely doing that. All right. So I'm going to have him singing. He's just going to get to have a little microphone so he can be singing happy birthday, right? And I think I'm going to dress up this guy a little bit more, and we're going to give him a cowboy hat, right? Super fun, right? So let's get just a little bit of glue on the top here. Come on. And I think I'll use take my pick tool again on that because this will help me be able to see it and line it up. We're just going to give him perfect. Now, I could put a dimensional under there to help with that, which I think would be a great idea, just to help hold all of this together. right? I'm gonna put it where it's part on the hat and part on his head. Whoops, thought I was gonna anyway. Here we go. And that'll help keep those two attached, right? My liquid glue is still a little bit wet. So we actually have our country western banjo player. All right, now for our greeting, I'm going to use shaded spruce ink, which matches the card base. And my hope your birthday is turtly awesome. I love just the way it sounds. Turtly. It just sounds so, just like so with it. And I'm just going to cut these on an angle. Nothing fancy here. And let's get these on dimensionals also. Let's see. Let's get these two right here. And I'm going to go right over the top of this guy where he's singing. And we are going to be, hope your birthday is turtly awesome. And you have a little interactive card with our cute little turtles. Now, I think this would be great for a child, but I really do think it would be great for any guy that's a musician. I think he'd think this card is pretty darn cool. I hope you enjoyed today's card. I hope I'm going to see you back again. Stampers Club has lots and lots of ideas for you to check out, and for me, I share a ton of stuff. And if you want me to give you any tips or tutorials on certain things, go ahead and drop that in the comments, and I will do my best to help you out with some extra inspiration. Maybe you learn a new technique or two. If you're not quite sure how to do something, just ask. I'll be happy to help you out. And in the meantime, you guys have a stamp happy day. Bye now.